Good evening, folks. This is the Factivist report for Monday, the 16th of, what is it? January. It is, by the way, Martin Luther King Day. And I'd like to invite everybody in the GOP today who is tweeting quotes from Martin Luther King to just shut the fuck up, because they have no clue what Martin Luther King was all about. But he was not about what they are. We got a little bit of a potluck for you tonight. So I'm going to turn this over to Dave so we can get going.
We have a beef stew, minestrone stew of hate, basically. We're going to talk a little bit about what the House is doing, what Biden is trying to do, and a lot about propaganda and all that kind of thing. Kind of a whole mishmash of stuff. So let's just start this off. I am trying very hard to find ways to pull people back into getting involved politically. And I know that
aren't we all?
We are so tired, mistrustful of the system. I don't want this ad. Go away, ad. Go away. There you go. No, I don't want you either. All right. Well, Sherry Shepherd's just going to have to stay there then. We just don't trust the government, and part of it is because of propaganda from the right.
It is absolutely. Their goal, by the way, is to create all of this fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the government so they can force a fascist authoritarian government in its place. I think you people need to understand that. We could dance around that if you want. I'm not dancing anymore.
Right.
Okay. We have one more chance to stave off fascism in this country. You either vote in 2024 or you can kiss democracy goodbye in this country. You may never see another election if the Republicans are put in power in the House and the Senate. And I can't overstate that frightening thought. I can't overstate it. It is a reality.
Now, Deb and I were both in the Green Party years ago. We were. One of the first people that put me onto the Green Party was Ralph Nader. I don't agree with everything he says, but I think he's a good actor, and I think that he tries. And he has had his problems with the Democratic Party from the beginning that I've known about him because of their corporatism and all that kind of stuff. So for Ralph Nader to appeal to voters right before the election and say, please vote Democrat, there's something to that. And I'm going to read his arguments for it. Now, this isn't.
And then when you're done with this, I'm going to chime in, and you know I am.
I know you are. I know you're going to look at me. So.
I'm not going
to. But hold on, look it. Yeah, whatever. So this is an interview with Amy Goodman. All right. Jeff Cohen, Norman Solomon wrote this up in Salon right before the election in November. So they ask you campaigned as an independent, agreeing for a political life. You ran for president 4 times. Why now throw your lot in with Democrats? And this is what he said. And I agree with all of this. This is clearly the most dangerous political movement since the Civil War, the GOP under the corporate fascist Trump's thumb, Nader replied. He spread a whole breed of many Trumpsters who are getting too much publicity compared to their opponents. We're talking about Kevin Sorbo, for God's sake, by the way. One of them, one of the 4 horses' asses of the apocalypse, as Deb puts it. So everything we fought for over the past 50 years is at stake here. They're ready to do everything but tear seatbelts out of our cars, allow smoking, a bunch of stuff. But safety's out the window. And we'll talk about that too. They want to let Wall Street lie, cheat, and steal with impunity, taking away the Consumer Financial Protection Board if they can. They want to make sure corporate crime wave continues to roll across America against workers and consumers and the elderly and children. And by the way, the U.S. House is trying to basically union bust their own union within Congress. So this is an order of magnitude we have never seen before. So Nader summarized the Republican threat to democracy. We have never seen a party literally trying to repress the vote, miscount the vote, purge the vote, intimidate precinct worker volunteers, and steal elections. They have actually basically said, an election we lose is because it has been stolen from us. That is the word of a dictatorship party. Every single Democrat that has lost has left the stage. Charlie Crist left the stage, even though DeSantis is probably the most dangerous politician that I can think of. He left the stage because he lost. Kerry Lake is still freaking screaming and yelling. So
let me just say a word here. I think the thing you have to understand is the notion of having multiple parties means you have to have a coalition government. And I'm not sure that's going to work here right now. My problem with I will tell you this. I did vote for Jill Stein twice. Yep. But honestly, I feel now, looking back, it was a waste because the Green Party has absolutely no power. All right. They have no power to solve the problem of fascism in America. They do not. Not right now. They don't. I don't know when they will, to be perfectly honest with you, because right now, for me, I would never go back to the Green Party at this point, third party or not. I do not and cannot support, just like I can't support the GOP for any reason or think that I can build a coalition with their voters. Personally, the Greens are now allowing right-wingers in there. They are allowing the anti-trans element because they feel like we can reason with them. You cannot reason with these people. There is no discussing this with these people. I can tell you right now, I have a transgender child. I have literally tried to reason with these people. And what they are allowing in, just for the sake of building a party, they are literally doing what they criticize other parties for. So to me, the Greens are a joke now. All right. The other thing I see, and this is coming from a man I just blocked. I literally went to a protest with him in Boston, went out afterwards and had drinks with this guy in a group. He is now saying that if you have to be in the future, all sex has to be absolute, which means it has to be cisgendered. This is a guy that I never anticipated would say something like this. I'm sorry, folks. The Green Party is off my docket now. I will never go back. They have crossed the line for me. And by the way, Jill Stein is the one who decided on a national level that we should consort with people who are anti-trans and anti-gay. I will not go there, not ever in my lifetime.
It was her and David Cobb, but yeah.
Yep. So I'm done.
And by the way, the Green Party was always a slave to trying to become popular enough to be relevant.
Right.
And when you're that, you can't function because you betray your own message.
Right.
All right. I would much rather deal with the Greens who align more with the Democrats than those who align more on the right wing side.
Now,
and that's the problem.
Let me also say this about the Democratic Party. I understand that Ralph Nader had a problem with their corporate level.
Yep.
But the fact of the matter is the Democrats are a party moving in the right direction. The entire squad takes no corporate PAC money. They rely on individual donations from people. And those people have limits to what they can donate. That's number one. Number two, every new Democratic Party House member that was elected has vowed not to take corporate PAC money. The Democrats are moving in the right direction. The Republican Party, on the other hand, is using billionaire dollars and corporate dollars to shape the courts and other entities in this government. So we are in a very, very precarious spot here. We are so far removed from 2016, it's not even funny. We're so far removed from 2020, it's not even funny.
Right.
This is literally a fascist takeover of this government. And if people can't see that yet, then they have not been paying attention.
I will say this. Just because somebody says they're a Democrat, you have to prove it to me, or you have to prove that you have at least the values that mirror mine. You have to protect people's rights. You have to caucus with the Democrats or work with the Democrats to a certain level. There's a line that you can't cross. And once you cross that line, that's it. Christian Sinema crossed that line. Manchin is crossing that line. Okay.
Yeah,
maybe he's not as bad as a Republican, but I don't want to hear that anymore.
Right.
There were a couple, and I won't go into it, a couple of Democrats that are coming close, and I'm going to pay attention. And once that line is crossed, we will go there. It's my understanding that the guy that George Santos replaced, he was a Democrat, but he actually caucused with Republicans. Maybe that's why he left. But
maybe
if you caucus
because he couldn't caucus with this group of Republicans.
Right. But if he comes back and he insists on doing that, no. We can't do that kind of stuff anymore because of what I'm going to be talking about here. All right. The whole point of the Republican House now will be oversight of the Democratic Party and taking away any power that the Ethics Committee had. They're taking it away so that their House reps can't be represented, or it can't be investigated, rather.
Or held accountable for anything.
Or held accountable for anything. So new House rules make it easier to dump the Speaker, which means McCarthy, if he does anything that the far right doesn't like,
they can just dump him.
They can put up for a vote, tying up the House forever.
As if they haven't already done that long enough.
Right. And by the way, they can do it right before a budget is due to be passed. They can muck up everything. Harder to spend and raise taxes, which means, public works programs, things that would benefit the people. They can just tie it up forever.
You're not interested in doing anything that benefits the people, by the way. You might as well accept that fact right now. And by the way, I'm not just talking to Democratic Party voters. I'm talking to the average Republican Party voter, because I happen to know not everybody that votes Republican is rich. There are a hell of a lot of poor white Republican people out there. And Donald Trump wouldn't even let you come in his doorway. The people that support Donald Trump are the people he's disgusted with the most, because he doesn't like the average man.
This is what we're talking about with the House oversight.
That's it.
That's it. So
they're done.
Anytime Biden or a Democrat or AOC steps in dog do, they're going to be right there. And everyone is human.
They won't even have to do anything. They won't. We talked about the whole thing with the documents. I'm not going to go into that really, other than to say people who work in the government like this, they have to be touching and reading thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pages of documents. So 10, 11, and by the way, people are allowed to take documents home. But
the the House is not going to do anything. They're not. So this was a list of things that Biden did in his first year. Just to go over it real quick. And I think we've talked about this before. So we had the American Rescue Plan. So that extended programs and services for people that had COVID-19. It actually helped me. When I had COVID, I was able to take 2 weeks of administrative leave because I work for the Postal Service. The Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, that's $1.2 trillion in infrastructure, creating jobs. That's the budget, basically, bills to avoid a government shutdown. And this is the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. This is basically something that banned imports from a certain region in China. All right. And then 5 significant executive orders, reversing Trump-era policies, vaccine requirements, which people screamed about because, oh my God, they're taking away my freedom, even though it's about safety. Gun control is another one, about safety. Climate targets, again, about safety. And then streamlining government services. So waiting in line at the airport, renewing the passports, filing taxes, that kind of thing. Making it easier, doing it online, that kind of thing. Paying back student loans, which I know is a pain. So that was in the beginning. Now, this is priorities for this coming year. All right. And I want to read this. President Biden will deliver bold action if he can, if it's not blocked by the House, and immediate relief for American families as the country grapples with converging crises. This will include actions to control the COVID-19 pandemic. I read it for a reason. It's not over. COVID is not over. There's a new strain that was just found. Provide economic relief, tackle climate change, advance racial equality and civil rights, and immigration reform. So we got COVID-19. It just talks about it a little bit more.
Can I just chime in on the immigration reform?
Yep. Go ahead.
I don't know if you saw the article out there. There is actually an article out there by a publication that says that Joe Biden's new immigration plan can work and it will never happen. It will never happen.
Right.
You know, it's amazing. And I think we should show it. I think we should show what he was able to do when he went to Mexico and talked to the president of Mexico. He got them to concede on several things. And it's an immigration plan that everybody that has looked at it in the media feels can work. And yet it's not going to be accepted. You know, it's because, you know what? Immigration is a fighting point. It's a fighting point to run for office. It is the primary fighting point for the Republican Party, aside from, of course, being transgender or gay or Black or Latina or whatever, Latino or whatever. It's one of those things that it's all they have to run on, basically. It's, you know, it's amazing to me. Honestly, I have to say this, and I honestly never thought in a million years I would, that he has been one of the most persistent and progressive presidents in my lifetime. And he's been able to do a lot of shit that I never even thought he would be able to pull off with the Republican Party.
Right.
All right. Now imagine if we had a rational Republican Party that we could disagree with on policy issues, what he would be able to do for the American people. This is not that party. They are galvanized. You know, Trump has left behind an army. It doesn't matter even if Trump goes to jail. They are still here. and they are fascists. It's as plain and simple as that.
If this was the 80s and the 90s, and Biden was the Biden of now, we could really get some things done.
Yep. And by the way, let me just interject this. Barack Obama was entirely right. If 90% of the Democratic voters actually get up and voted, we wouldn't have to worry about the GOP, because
Right.
they are not the party of the majority in this country. Most people don't think like them. They win when we don't vote.
Now, this article was from Politico. Now, this was right at January 1st. This was before the whole documents thing came forward and all that stuff. But they say he has a stronger hand to play right now, even with the document stuff.
He does.
He does. But there's not much policy is gonna go through. Maybe some infrastructure stuff, some stuff with the budget. But the House is bound and determined to block pretty much everything. This is the
okay.
This is the one where I figured you were going to hit the immigration stuff on this one. Difference between Trump and Biden. It's pretty stark different. Donald Trump, get rid of Affordable Care Act. Let insurance be sold across state lines. Premiums should be tax deductible. Allow HSAs for individuals. Block grants to states for Medicaid. Joe Biden wants to ensure all under age 21, allow families to buy into S-chip, cover children in families up to 3 times the poverty level, create a pool of private plans. So Trump, take away, Biden, add services. Position on abortion, change stance. Now in favor of outlawing abortions except in cases of rape, incest, or life of mother, supportive of non-abortion services provided by Planned Parenthood.
I bet you. Is this when he was in office?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think he supports Planned Parenthood on any level now.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
No.
Joe Biden strongly supports Roe v. Wade. He tried to codify it. Position on immigration. Bill wall on Mexican borders, triple number of ICE officers, deport all criminal aliens, defund sanctuary cities, end birthright citizenship, increase prevailing wage for H-1B visas. Biden supports a path to legalization for undocumented immigrants and includes learning English and paying fines. Toughen penalties for employers who hire undocumented immigrants and would create a guest worker program. And by the way, toughening penalties for employers to hire undocumented immigrants would put pressure on those immigrants.
Right. So
it's not all good, but again, pretty much take away and provide. Global warming.
Here we go. This is a pisser.
Trump has tweeted the concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive.
He's an idiot. Okay.
He said he'd renegotiate America's role and obligations under the UN Global Climate Accord, which no, he took us out of the Paris Accords, blah, blah, blah. Joe Biden wants to create a 5-year, $50 billion project for energy and climate change to finance research into discovering alternative energy sources and developing technologies. There's other stuff. I mean, I'm not going to go into the Iran and Iraq policies, but as you see, most of it is take away, provide.
And honest to God, folks, what is it that makes it difficult for people to see that these guys work for us? They're supposed to be supporting us. We pay taxes. They are supposed to give back to the American people.
I just, on a whim, I did a search. I'm not going to put this in the sources, but you guys can, if you listen to this, Just do a Google search on the Republican war on health and safety. Okay, they started with the gas stove thing, which I'm going to talk about a little bit. I remember there was a quote from the West Wing. Okay, or I'm sorry, the American President, which the West Wing was based on. I understand it's a movie, but it's a relevant quote. The Republicans' strategy for running for elections is making you afraid of it and telling you who's to blame for it. That's what they do, and that's how they win elections.
It is.
That was Michael Douglas. Now, that was Aaron Sorkin writing a line, but it's true. Okay. Gas stoves. They're taking your way to cook food away.
I can't.
Gender affirming care.
I can't.
Conversion therapy. And Republicans' attack on crime. And this was a House Republican, or Sarah Jacobs targets privacy, abortion, and childcare. And there's more. Okay. There's pages upon pages of this stuff. I want people to understand, and I'm going to talk some about some of the players like J.D. Vance. We've already talked about Santos, makes my head hurt. And Ron DeSantis. Okay. You want to talk about the global agenda, or that whole thing? What's it called? Is it the global agenda?
Globalism?
Globalism, the global agenda. The radical global agenda. This is a radical global agenda. Fascism.
It is.
All right.
Turkey. Okay, Viktor Orban dismantled democracy in Turkey. Italy just went full fascism.
Maloney.
Yeah, with Maloney.
Bolsonaro.
By the way, she was involved with Steve Bannon.
Yep.
People need to understand what this is here, folks. We are the fact that people say this can't happen here, you need to wake up. It's happening in real time right now.
The pro-Putin Republicans and conservatives. Now, Biden has made it clear that he wants to support the Ukraine. Part of this whole thing with the documents is to try to prove that he has something to gain from defending the Ukraine.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. There are several pro-Putin Republicans and conservatives, those heroes that sat down when the leader of the Ukraine.
The people who were totally ignorant, who sat there on their phones, Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert, instead of paying attention. You don't have to agree with whoever's speaking in front of Congress, but you know what? Put your fucking phone down and pay attention. You want to disagree with them afterwards? You go ahead and do that. I maintain that when something is in session in Congress, they should not be allowed to take their phones out, because you know what? When you work in retail, you can't take your phone to the floor in retail. Why should they?
Now, I don't know where this data comes from. Now, this is the Republican Accountability Project. Now, where the only 5% of Republicans support Russia over Ukraine, I don't know where that data comes from, and the MAGA wing of the GOP has continually sided with Putin. All right. So this whole thing about Russia, I'm starting to think that was a propaganda campaign well before they started their public support for Putin.
It was. I believe it was.
Yeah. So current and former elected officials, candidates for office, media figures who are popular with the MAGA base have a history of pro-Russia comments. Now they have decided they should disparage Ukraine and Zelensky despite Russia's invasion. Some of them have walked back their comments. I haven't seen any of them walk back their comments once they saw Putin's war machine target innocent people, but many still see Russia as an ally. So
walking back comments. That's a crock of shit. Okay, you know what? Once those words are released out of your freaking mouth, they hang in the air. They never go away.
So, oh, look at that. Trump all over the place, Madison Cawthorn. So let's just have some fun with us for a minute. Putin is now saying it's independent of a large section of Ukraine. I said, how smart is that? And he's going to go in and be a peacekeeper. He's the strongest peace force.
Yeah, what a fucking idiot.
If Putin likes Donald Trump, I consider that an asset, not a liability, because we have a horrible relationship with Russia. That was in January of 2017 when we first got in. Putin is taking over a country for $2 worth of sanctions. I'd say that's pretty smart.
Ever the businessman.
Okay, Madison Cawthorn, who, by the way, vacationed at, what was it? Hitler's
Eagle's Nest.
Eagle's Nest, okay.
Which is a Nazi, which was a Hitler stronghold.
Yeah. Remember that Zelensky is a thug. Remember that the Ukrainian government is incredibly corrupt and it's incredibly evil and it has been pushing woke ideologies.
Remember that Madison Cawthorn has been caught in a number of different scandals, that he vacated his office immediately after losing in the primaries, leaving his constituents up in the air, closed up his office, packed up and moved to Florida, and he still collected our taxpayer dollars in salary. Did Kevin McCarthy do anything about that? No, he did not.
Okay, I want to talk about this Marjorie Taylor Greene thing for a minute. I don't have the data. I looked at all this crap. All right, NATO has been supplying neo-Nazis in Ukraine with powerful weapons and extensive training on how to use them. What the hell is going on with these NATO Nazis? There is a small faction within for Ukrainian forces that are neo-Nazi. Now, there's a small percentage. There are neo-Nazis in our government. There are white supremacists in our government, in our police force, and all of that. We're not. And by the way, we never said completely dismantle the police force. What we were saying is for certain mentally disordered cases or people who are threatening to harm themselves, you don't bring cops in there because there's a chance that they're going to shoot them. This happened. You need.
Let me say something about Marjorie Taylor Greene here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Marjorie Taylor Greene consorts with neo-Nazis routinely.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You can't be denied. It's everywhere. And by the way, when we suggested, when they tried to pass legislation to root out neo-Nazis and white supremacists from the police force and the military in this country, the Republican Party voted it down.
Yep.
Just so everyone understands that.
You see Ukraine just keep poking the bear, which is Russia, and Russia invaded. And the hard truth is there is no win for Ukraine here. Russia's being very successful in their invasion.
That's not true either, by the way.
Under Republicans, not another penny will go to Ukraine.
That's not true either.
I think we should probably take the side of Russia if we have to choose between Russia and Ukraine. That's Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Tucker the fucker.
Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he ever threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Putin doesn't give a shit who you are, Tucker. Oh, here we go.
Mind, honey.
JD Vance.
Great statement here.
You know what? I got to give it to JD. At least he's being honest.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you.
Right.
I don't care what happens to Ukraine one way or the other. We're going to end with that one. This is a Washington Post article.
Which means he doesn't care about innocent people getting hurt. He really doesn't.
No, he doesn't give a shit. This is about the power of propaganda and using fear. So this is actually a decent article. I just wanted to throw that throw this out there. So this was just basing things on emotional responses and not data, which is why we basically switched to being the Factivist report. Now, there are some things that we look at and it sparks us, and we have to step back. Okay. The Damar Hamlin thing, it caught me, but I stepped back and I looked at it, and I actually did a lot of research on it. And by the way, the documents stuff with Biden, I had the guy is a Democrat, a very intelligent guy. He's like, well, you know what? Let's just solve it this way. Let's have Trump can't run, but Biden can't run either. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Okay. You're going from an emotional standpoint. You're not looking at everything. And if you're
in the details,
the devil is in the details.
We'll see where that goes.
Yep.
By the way, look at the article on the right there. You missed that, but that's all right. New details link George Santos to a cousin of sanctioned Russian oligarch.
Right.
There you go.
All this. Yep. Well, there we go. Oh, no, I don't know. Joe Biden and Kevin McCarthy prepare to work together? Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that won't happen either.
Tom Tillis emerges as a bipartisan deal maker.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
So this is one of the things that I wanted to just bring up about J.D. Vance. He's using poverty to have the working middle class, or but at this point the poor middle class, fight with the people who cannot work. In his book, The Hillbilly Elegy. Okay, so you're basically blaming the disabled, people who are elderly and retired or whatever, for your lot in life, instead of the government, who should be providing you with services that you already paid for, by the way.
Right.
And by the way, I didn't really go into it. There's all this stuff about fentanyl now. All these things about fentanyl. Again, J.D. Vance worked with the Sacklers and had to distance himself from them. All right. Okay, so
I don't know how we won, but that's me.
It was the fact that the Democrats didn't like the candidate. They thought he was too blue, in my opinion, and they let this jackass get in.
Yeah.
So
this guy's a fascist. It's even worse.
No, he's bad. I want to give you an example
and he's a stump on top of everything. So
of current propaganda. We have talked time and time again about Christina Pushaw. She is basically Ron DeSantis's mouthpiece. She also had to recently register as a foreign agent because she worked in Russian politics and Russian propaganda before she worked for Ron DeSantis.
Let that sink in, okay? We are bringing people here who worked with Vladimir Putin to act as spokespeople. Anybody who thinks Ron DeSantis is going to return the Republican Party to normalcy should have an intervention.
All right. So, Governor DeSantis defends gas stoves against potential federal ban.
There is no potential federal ban.
There isn't. There was someone speaking for, I don't know if it was the Consumer Protection Bureau. It was someone who was talking about, guidelines, safety
It was a
guidelines.
consumer agency.
It was a consumer agency. It was a consumer agency.
All right.
So it was a consumer agency, and this person said that there should be guidelines, specific guidelines for stoves to meet, and if they don't meet those basic guidelines, they will be taken off the market.
And why they were told, why this came up as a topic is because studies have linked leaky stoves, gas stoves, to children's asthma. This is an issue of protecting the fucking consumer. And all of a sudden it has become Joe Biden's coming to take my gas stoves, just like Joe Biden, who, by the way, goes to church every Sunday, was closing down their churches 2 years ago. You know what? This is a typical Republican ploy. This is bullshit.
Okay, so here we go. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission is sounding alarms about potential hazard from appliances, indoor air contamination from leaky gas stoves. It's a hidden hazard, said Commissioner Richard Trumka Jr. in an interview with Bloomberg. Any options on the table. Products that cannot be made safe can be banned. Okay, 40% of U.S. stoves use natural gas currently. A ban would not be immediate, but of that number, the 40%, who knows how many of those are defective? They didn't give that number. What I wanted to show you too, this is typical propaganda, and she's a master at it. Others in the DeSantis orbit are offering grim warnings, including former spokesperson Christina Pushaw, who framed a potential gas stove ban as embodying the collective. I guess she doesn't work for him anymore. But she does. She doesn't officially, but she does.
You're right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Who framed a potential gas stove ban as embodying the collectivist spirit of Russia.
That's bullshit.
Biden will ban gas stoves for normal people, but not for the elites. Listen, if you're that elite, you're not cooking your own food. Okay, if you're that elite, I'm just saying.
You know what? She's pulling this shit right out of her ass. I'm sorry, folks. This is unbelievable. By the way, I believe she's probably a former spokesperson because she had to register as a Russian agent, and that was probably not a good look for old Ron. Right.
That's probably what it was. Biden will ban gas stoves for normal people, not for elites. This is Soviet America. Rules for thee, not for me. Pushaw tweeted Tuesday morning. So
she's a fucking cancer. She really is.
So here's another one.
She needs to put some more Botox on her lips so that she can't speak anymore. U.S.
conservatives cheer Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban at a conference.
Right. He was the keynote speaker at CPAC.
Yep. Orban championed a law banning teaching LGBTQ topics in school, and in a speech in July criticized creating peoples of mixed race and seemed to joke about Nazi gas chambers.
Unbelievable. These are the people, by the way, let me say this again, that the GOP embraces.
Yep. So hundreds of dyed-in-wool U.S. Republicans listening to him speak at CPAC. Orban's Hungary.
Right.
Yep. It's a Christian anti-woke conservative utopia and an aspirational model for what they want the United States to become. And Steve Bannon was a linchpin in starting this whole movement too.
Yeah, he was. You should watch the Brink.
The Brink. Now we're going
it for $2.99. Trust me.
Yep.
You will see. By the way, you will see the new Prime Minister of Italy in there too, Meloni.
Yeah, I had one about Meloni actually, and I don't know where it went, but I'll put it in here later. The rise of DeSantis. Okay, basically, he's bullying all of his Republican counterparts to do what he wants. He's smashing through all sorts of fascist legislation. It's very, very scary. Also, while Floridians rode each new wave of coronavirus infections, watching our hospitals fill to the point of overflowing, all in the face of anger and consternation from elected officials whose job it was to provide comfort and safety, the governor became more emboldened. Now, Rebecca Jones ran against Matt Gaetz. She lost. She tried to call some of this out.
And by the way, she was given whistleblower status.
Yes, she was.
But that didn't stop him. Just looking at him sickens me.
He is he's so dangerous that people might go back and go, oh my God, I wish we had Donald Trump back.
I'm serious. This guy is bad news.
He is more dangerous than Trump. He's emboldened at this point. I thought this is coming from that same HuffPost article. This is a link coming from it. How conservatives became Karens. So this, again, this is kind of molding this poor white privilege kind of thing, into. It's always been there. It's always been in the surface, like the Archie Bunker stuff.
Right.
Those immigrants have taken my jobs and blah, 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 blah. Even though they're jobs that nobody would want. So.
Even though they're jobs that no American will do. That's a reality.
Exactly. So, oh, yeah. So, conservative white people love them some wars. I'm not just talking about those grown men and women who dress up to recreate the war that they lost, which the Civil War. I'm talking about those who keep moaning about how they're losing the war, the only war that they're fighting. America's under siege. Conservative whites are at war for their guns, their freedoms, their classified documents from inside Mar-a-Lago, which is the closest America will ever come to a lair. They're at war against wokeism and cancel culture and the dissolution of the white race. And they're obsessed with the idea of oppression. When in all honesty,
they're all about oppression.
Not only are they all about oppression, the oppression they're talking about is government regulation for safety purposes.
For corporations.
Right.
No.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, like, let's say streetlights, no smoking in buildings, that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, actually, now that you brought that up, apparently in a recent show, Tucker Carlson and a conservative Republican were trying to defend why they should be able to smoke in the Capitol because it's the smell of freedom. I'm telling you, folks, their idea of freedom is not freedom, all right? Their idea of freedom, just like the freedom to, not get a vaccine, because you're free that way. You protect your medical freedom, but you spread an infectious disease to people who don't deserve to get that infectious disease. And you smoke. And you know what? You can kill yourself if you want by smoking. But you know what? Your secondhand smoke kills other people. This is what we're talking about here. And that joke Ralph made about seatbelts, don't laugh at that. I wouldn't laugh at that.
Right. I don't know if it was a joke. I think he because any time that anyone who's really trying to legislate anything like gas stoves or aerosol cans or anything like that, the Republicans screech.
Yeah, they do.
Now, I want to mention this. This is about Brandon Straka. Okay. He was a January 6th person. Take the January 6th insurrectionist exhibit at the conservative at CPAC in August. A white man, Brandon Straka, a former hairstylist turned Trumpish influencer, was locked away in a fake jail of his own creation. It's not a metaphor. He contributed to the movement, an artistic installment that featured Straka barefoot in an orange jumpsuit, pacing around and weeping as onlookers prayed for his release.
Fuck me, really. Fucking losers. I can't even. I can't understand how anybody can take these people seriously, but you know what? They are. And they are dangerous, all of them.
This is a journalist talking about this. At the CPAC booth, you receive a silent disco headset that plays harrowing testimony from the people arrested for participating in J6. Journalist Laura Jadid tweeted, "Instead of dancing, you stand around and watch this guy cry. What I need you to understand is I stood there for about a half hour, and this guy never broke character. He kept sitting at the bench. He wept sitting on the floor. He tallied days on a chalkboard set up for this purpose."
He's a drama king.
And what no one yelled out is, "Dude, stop crying. You're not in jail. What are y'all people praying for? This isn't real." If the entire conservative movement could be summed up in one artistic expression, it would be a white man crying in a phony jail cell inside a Dallas Hilton conference space. But this is propaganda.
You should read the paragraph.
The reality is, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. The reality is that Straka was at the Capitol grounds during the 2021 insurrection. He participated in the failed coup attempt to overthrow the government. And when he caught, he snitched on fellow insurrectionists as part of a plea deal to avoid jail time. And now he's doing this.
Yeah.
But we can't get stuck in the truth. It'll merely muddy the waters. I want to show you guys this. If you go into, I don't know why this is the case. I just looked at it. We did a piece on the most recent WikiLeaks stump back in 2021, the Intolerance Network. If you go here, they will ask you for a password. So I have a feeling that there are actually, classified documents in this that people aren't supposed to look at, or people who have already used or whatever. If I click on this, it's going to ask me for a password. So I don't know what you would have to do to get.
You must have to register.
Clearance or register or whatever. And I don't want to register and then share it. Right. You know what I mean? However, there is this thing called coalition.org. There's an archive. It basically shows what it is, and there are some unclassified documents that will show that fascism is a global movement, including the founding of Citizen Go and the documents from the Heights or organizing, which is a lot of what we were showing back when we did this. The Human Rights Campaign report stated the World Congress of Families is one of the most influential American organizations involved in the export of hate, and they are involved internationally. So if you want to look at anything, I would recommend that you go to this website or this page and just click on these links. I don't know. I haven't really listened to any of these videos. I don't know what language they're in. They could be in a foreign language. Not sure. But this is a nice snapshot. I know there were a ton of documents, but I don't know why you have to register at this point or how you do it. What I will say is that when I went to the other WikiLeaks stumps, they allowed you to do it. So who knows? I don't know why. We did talk about the different classification of documents. Maybe there was stuff in there that was way too sensitive. I have no idea. I don't know why they changed it. In 2021, you were allowed to do it. Now you're not. So, but the point being that what is happening in the United States is not just happening in the United States. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in Africa. It's happening in Russia. It's happening everywhere.
And it's important we don't let it happen here. Okay? It is important that we do not allow this to happen here.
And then we quash it.
Right. We held it off at the midterms. We have to do way better than that come 2024. These people literally have to go. It's just no way for the DOJ to remove everybody. They have to have committed a crime. Just because they haven't committed a crime doesn't mean their ideology isn't dangerous. Okay? They can legislate fascism. They have been legislating fascism.
And not only independents like Ralph Nader, there are some retired Republicans that we've talked about before that have said they won't participate in this party. Now, is that a cop-out? Maybe. But it's telling at how dangerous this is and how far gone the Republican Party is. I've never agreed with the Republican Party or liked the Republican Party, but there was a point where I knew that the Democrats at some level could work with them. You can't work with these guys at all. So that's what we have right now. I know that was kind of a mishmash of information, but Joe Biden is not your enemy. The Democrats are not your enemy. Adam Schiff is not your enemy. AOC is not your enemy.
Right.
Everyone is human, but the one thing that I will say, the thing that actually hurts the Democrats is one of the things that's actually admirable about the Democrats, in that they are more likely to admit their mistakes.
Right.
Because then the Republicans can pounce. The Republicans are shameless. Look at George Santos, for God's sake. Look at Donald Trump. Hopefully, at some point, their shamelessness will be their undoing. I don't know at what point people will finally realize that they've gone too far. I mean, for Deb and me, it was January 6th. We immediately saw it.
Yep.
Deb's been doing this for decades. I've been doing it actually since the early 90s. So decades too.
People for a very long time that dominionism and Christian nationalism were the driving force behind this. And honest to God, they still are. And
they are.
They have been very patient in getting themselves here, and they are now here, and they need to be rejected wholeheartedly.
I mean, you look at, we've covered Spotlight and the Catholic priest scandal, and it's not just Catholicism, but Catholicism, they protected these child predators. Let's just call it what it is. They're child predators. And this was international.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And now it's been revealed in the Southern Baptist Church as well. So there's a difference between religion and Christian nationalism. And we need to do a show on that at some point. So people understand what Christian nationalism actually is, because that's closely allied to white supremacy. And people need to understand that.
And I would think that if you are a true Christian, or if you truly believe in a higher power and in God and all of that, that you would denounce these people if you're truly a religious person.
Right. Because
religion is not about an angry God striking down those who don't believe him, blah, 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 blah. That is what oligarchs want you to believe. That's what back in England with the divine right. they're the ones that were given the divine right, so you have to listen to them. They're an extension of God, as well as fascists. So, but that's what we have right now. Keep paying attention and just be aware of what's going on and fight back on anything that takes away anybody's rights. And if anyone, one of the things that Deb and I talked about too is when someone is treating someone unfairly or bullying them or whatever at work or wherever, and you can get involved, protect these people. I have seen in my workplace an alarming amount of bullying and harassment against autistic people. We have a few coworkers of mine who are on the spectrum, and this bullying of autistic people is off the chain at this point. Oh, it's okay. They're cool with it. No,
They're not.
they're not.
That's what bullies say.
Yep. So,
all right, gang, we're closing it out. This will be up tomorrow, but probably not until the afternoon as I open tomorrow morning. So when I get home at 2, I will put it up.
in honor of Martin Luther King Day, anyone, whether they be black, female, gay, autistic, bipolar, different, they got a bump on the head, they got a horn on the head, whatever, just be nice to them, be respectful to them, and protect them if you can.
Later.
Later.